Well, 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 well. Imagine crafting your entire career on lies. I suppose this is not uncommon in Hollywood, but in this particular case, it is lies of fake racism. A Netflix comedian, Hasan Minaj, you may have known him from uh, some boring Netflix specials. His entire career, including his stand up special Patriot Act, is full of just all these racisms that's happened to him as being a brown guy in America. Well, it turns out that it's all a lie. Hasan Minaj's, quote, emotional truths. In his stand up specials, the former, quote, Patriot Act host often recounts harrowing experiences he's faced as an Asian American and a Muslim American. Does it matter if much of it never happened to him? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Does it matter if Juicy Sommelier was in mega country in the middle of the night? I understand comedy, much of it stand-up comedy. Like you learn, if you consume a lot of it, you kind of learn like a lot of the stories comedians will tell about this person they met or this thing that happened are at minimum embellished or at maximum completely fabricated. And I think most of it is relatively harmless. That said, when you fabricate racism, I believe that first of all gets picked up by mainstream media. This is why this unfunny hack ever got specials, and it perpetuates division in this country. Now, can you have one or two funny jokes? Ha ha ha. Indian guy, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Yeah, I suppose. That's not a big deal. But when you have the body of work as Hasan Minaj, that's almost exclusively lies, I have a problem with it. And the fact that the New Yorker is writing this article to support it is insane to me. If a white person, this is the litmus test of all things in society. If a white person had a stand-up comedy career built on faking racist interactions with black people, do you think the New Yorker would be writing an article to say it's okay? The comedian Hasan Minaj came of age as a practicing Muslim in an Indian family in a post 9/11 America. His Netflix series Patriot Act, a comedy news show in the mold of The Daily Show and Last Week Tonight, so you know it sucks, was named for a defining law of that era. The series won an Emmy and a Peabody Award during its 2-year run. Wow, it was so good it ran for 2 whole years. His stage work as a stand-up comic led to 2 Netflix comedy specials, which have drawn plaudits for Minaj's blend of autobiographical storytelling and social justice commentary. He recently conducted a lengthy sit-down interview with Barack Obama. I wonder if he asked about his chef, and is the leading candidate to succeed Trevor Noah. People still watch that show? Minaj was selected as one of the Times' most influential people. I've never even heard of him. In an accompanying article, Noah wrote, "We needed Hassan's voice during Trump, since Trump came down the golden escalator and turned immigrants and Muslims into his targets. I never felt that way at all. Minaj's whip-smart commentary, charisma, and sincerity went on blah, 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 blah." Now, Minaj's approach to comedy leans heavily on his own experiences as an Asian American and a Muslim American, telling harrowing stories of law enforcement entrapment and personal threats. For many of his fans, he's become an avatar for power of representation and entertainment. But after many weeks of trying, I have been unable to confirm some of the stories that he has told on stage. When we met in a recent afternoon at a comedy club in the West Village, Minaj acknowledged for the first time that many of the anecdotes he related in his Netflix specials were lies. Still, he said that he stood by his work. "Every story in my style is built around a seed of truth." No, it isn't. It's a complete fabrication. "My comedy, Arnold Palmer, is 70% emotional truth. This happened, and then 30% hyperbole, exaggeration, and fiction." In his 2022 Netflix stand-up, The King's Jester, a biographical reflection on fame, vainglory, and Minaj's obsession with social media clout, He relays a story about an FBI informant who infiltrated his family's Sacramento area mosque in 2002 when Minaj was in junior high school. As Minaj tells it, Brother Eric, a muscle-bound white man who said he was a convert to Islam, gained the trust of the mosque community. He went to dinner at Minaj's house and even offered to teach weight training to the community's teenage boys. But Minaj had a Brother Eric pegged from the beginning. He just was so smart. Eventually, Brother Eric tried to trick the boys to talking about things. He decided to mess with Brother Eric, telling him that he wanted to get his pilot's license. Soon the police were on the scene, blah, 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 blah. Never happened. Never happened. Later in the special, Minaj spoke about a fallout from Patriot Act segments on the Khashoggi guy. And, the big screen displays threatening tweets that were sent to Minaj. Most disturbingly, he tells the story of a letter sent to his home, which was filled with white powder. The contents accidentally spilled onto his young daughter. The child was rushed to the hospital. It turned out that it was just sugar, but it was a sobering reminder. Never really happened. Never happened. Here's a Substack on it. On Conundrum Cluster, shout out. Comedian crafts the myth of 21st century on Netflix. Sam won't read this whole thing because shout out to Substack writers. Stand-up comedy effing sucks. I've seen a few funny performances, and I'm sure there are some modern comedians who do it well. I really enjoyed Sam Hyde reading off the planned skits for World Peace 2 shortly after his Adult Swim series was canceled. But I don't really know how many people watch most of the stuff that gets shoved onto streaming services, much less pay for it. A lot of it seems like sermon, where political views of the audience are spoon-fed back to them. Emotional stories, which aren't funny at all, are inserted to shame or validate audience members. It really is bizarre to watch these rituals and emotional performances they provoke from viewers. I had never heard of Hasan Minhaj before I read the article on him. I just realized the New Yorker, I guess I had seen the name. He just blends it with dozens, perhaps hundreds of the same dead-eyed comedians who I'm sure all have podcasts with 100,000 subscribers and Netflix specials where they talk about how much they hate white people and want to end conservatives who are anti-poke. I don't watch any of this stuff. According to the New Yorker, Minaj is quite successful. His Netflix show Patriot Act won several Emmys, blah, 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 blah. The problem is many of his stories were fake. These lies go well beyond artistic license expedited from comedians. Here are some examples of fabrications from Minaj included in his stand-up set. Claiming white powder was sent to his house and it got on his kid. Claiming that he was almost entrapped by federal agents. Claiming to have set up an interview with the Saudi Arabian embassy about him speaking with Mohammed bin Salman. Minaj claimed the meeting quickly became hostile. And they are so insane. These lies were strange, but at least served Minaj's political purposes. He was a vocal critic of President Trump, especially Trump's immigration policy, and hard line against terror. Other lies were much more bizarre and revealed the heart of his motivations. In particular, in one of his stand-up shows, he detailed how he's friends with a white girl and the pair had a secret romance, which had to be hidden due to racism. Minaj said that he asked her out to prom. She agreed, but then rejected him in a humiliating way the night of the dance. Her bigoted parents were concerned about what others would think. The story ended up being also a complete lie. It turned out, although the pair were friends, they were never romantic, and she had rejected him several days before the prom actually even occurred. She wasn't racist. In fact, her husband was Indian, just like Minaj is. He resented her for rejecting him in high school, carried it around for 20 years, and then repeatedly smeared her in front of millions of people. Minaj was particularly vindictive towards this woman. When he was just entering the mainstream, he invited her to one of the shows where he recounted his fake version of the story, calling her racist. He even used pictures of her and gave out personal details that made the story easy to identify. The woman was doxxed and harassed by his fans for years. When she confronted him over this, he blew her off and refused to change the act. I don't read The New Yorker often because the story is just really crazy. I obviously don't like Minaj's politics, but it just comes across as psychotic and vindictive. There are a lot of nutcases like this involved in radical leftist politics. Probably most revealing aspect of the controversy is that Minaj is totally unapologetic for lying. In fact, he refuses to even admit that his stories were lies. Instead, he claims that they were emotionally true. When the New Yorker journalist pressed him about this, reminding him that the stories were not true in any sense, Minaj replied, I think what I'm ultimately trying to do is highlight all of these stories, building to what I think is a pointed argument. He's just a liar and a fraud, and Netflix keeps paying him, and he gets paid to divide this country. And anyway, I recommend checking out the rest of Conundrum Cluster. Seems like they have a good head on their shoulders. But the idea is that, and again, did you see any articles of this? Yeah, I was rolling on the floor laughing about how he took revenge on the woman who rejected his prom proposal by making up a racism accusation against her. Ha 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 ha. I don't think Dave Chappelle was offered crack by a baby in the wee hours of the night while sitting in a limousine that lacked power windows. Yes, that's true, but that's different. That's a fictional thing that you know obviously is fake. You aren't race grifting and trying to sow division, and in this particular case, ruin a woman's life to push your social agenda. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that some more people call out Hasan Minhaj, because I'm sure the more digging we do, the more insane lies will be a part of his act. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you have a like on it. If you haven't yet, you made it this far, please do subscribe or follow down below, and I would just greatly appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again real soon.